Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's 2 o'clock, so I should probably get started. Thank you all for coming. I'm Owen Rose from Acteon. For those of you who don't know about Acteon, we are a blended learning solutions provider. We work for clients of all shapes and sizes, and we help those clients to achieve their objectives and solve their problems using a wide variety of learning and communication formats. If you want to find out a bit more about what we do, please do go to our website, see what this looks like in action, or even better, come and talk to us on stand 96, just over there. These guys won't be on the stand, unfortunately. As you might have gathered, this is a Channel 4 picture, not an Acteon picture, if only. So anyway, today what I want to do is to share a case study with you. And it's a piece of work that we did with Channel 4. We worked with them to create a code of conduct learning program that really challenged some of the typical approaches to compliance training. It was a very successful program, very successful at driving change at Channel 4, and it was recognized in last year's e-learning awards with 2 gold awards, gold for best use of e-learning for compliance, and gold for excellence in content creation. So I hope it will make an interesting story. And within that story, I'll try and draw out some of the key approaches that we use at Acteon to build learner engagement and to drive behaviour change. Those were certainly essential to the success of this programme, and I guess they're 2 factors that are probably essential to the success of most learning interventions. So I hope that whatever needs you have, whether it's a compliance need or whether it's something else entirely, that there will be something in this case study that might be of use to you. So on with the story. So what was the objective in this case for Channel 4? Well, this work was really about protecting reputation. So Channel 4 has a great reputation. It has a reputation for creating cutting-edge content, for pushing boundaries, for representing diverse perspectives. And we've probably all experienced some of that work, whether it's through Benefit Street or Dispatches or Brookside back in the day, or the Paralympics, or Film 4 content like 12 Years a Slave. It's got a fantastic and high-profile reputation. And that reputation is crucial because it drives viewer numbers. And viewer numbers drive advertising sales revenues. Because Channel 4 is unique, I think, in the UK broadcasting industry, in that it's publicly owned, but it's entirely commercially funded by ad sales revenues. So reputation and viewer trust are crucial to the bottom line for Channel 4. But as we all know, reputations can be damaged by the conduct of individuals. And if you're a high-profile organisation, then that reputational damage can be quick and serious. And reputational issues for big UK broadcasters has been something of an issue lately. So, we're all familiar with stories in the news about issues at the BBC, both historical and more recent. ITV recently had to make large settlements over things like the McAlpine disclosures. And Channel 4 itself is not a stranger to controversy. And its image actually comes from an issue which Channel 4 was involved in, where they were accused of faking images for a promotional campaign for a series of My Big Fat Gypsy Wedding. They were accused of sexing up images and faking them, and then passing them off as realistic. And this particular controversy ended up with the chief executive of Channel 4 in front of a Commons Select Committee explaining the actions of some individuals within his organisation. So reputational protection is extremely important. And in the current climate, and following issues like that, the chief exec at Channel 4 made standards of professional conduct, an emphasis on standards of professional conduct and professional practice, a key objective throughout the organisation. And they set themselves the objective of ensuring that professional practice across the organisation lived up to the standards set out in Channel 4's Code of Conduct. So the Code of Conduct itself here it is. It's quite a short document. It's only about 15 or 16 pages long, I think. But it sets out the headline expectations in all sorts of professional practice areas. Things like managing conflicts of interest, expenses, data security, that sort of thing. And although it's quite a small document in itself, it's backed up by a huge range of policy and procedures, which contains all of the detail behind that. So they wanted to raise awareness of this, and they wanted to change behaviour to ensure that professional practice was in line with what they expected. And like lots and lots of organisations before them, they realised that e-learning can be a powerful way of doing this kind of compliance training. It's powerful because it's a way of rapidly delivering consistent messages across the organisation. It's a relatively good way of updating and refreshing training, which you often have to do in compliance areas. And it's also very powerful providing that audit information that you need through your learning management system. So far so good. But like most organisations again, and many of you may have had this experience as well, there's a big challenge often with compliance type training, in that it's perceived as the bad medicine that you just have to take, the bitter pill. It's a necessary evil. If people engage with it at all, they engage with it because they have to. And when they've completed it, it's just a box checked. That's what they require, that's what the company requires, and behaviour isn't really changed, and maybe the training's had no impact. So that's a kind of typical challenge with compliance training, and you may have experienced that in the organisations that you work with. And that problem was particularly significant at Channel 4. Because Channel 4 likes to push boundaries, it likes to take risks. The corporate values chosen by staff there are curious, cheeky, fearless, and with heart. So it's not perhaps a typical organisation. In fact, you could say that Channel 4 exists to be non-compliant. So this issue of how to get engagement with this important but dull messages of a code of conduct was a key one. And this is when Acteon became involved with Channel 4. So they engaged with us, and the challenge was, how can we do this? How can we make a difference here? How can we create something that does engage people and does lead to behaviour change? So I want to talk now really about how we did that and show you some of the examples of what that meant in practice. And in doing that, I want to pick out some key strands that we use, and we use them with other clients as well. And I hope there'll be things that you can see how they would work in any environment, with any training, whether it's e-learning, classroom-based, some general principles about building learner engagement. Okay, so there's 4 of them, so let's start with the first one. So what we're always seeking to do is to link the learning to an individual aspiration. So we want to connect these important but dull messages with something that matters to me. So what this amounts to at Channel 4 was saying, you enjoy working at Channel 4, you love being here, you love the reputation of the organisation, you love it because it's edgy and it's risky. Well, Channel 4 can be like that because it has a bedrock of exemplary professional practice on which it can push boundaries, on which it can take risks. And we summed this up in the idea that Channel 4 is risky but not reckless. So that was a key message that was woven throughout the learning materials, to link the aspiration of Channel 4 staff to these important messages about conduct. And there are a number of ways in which we did that. We linked the programme to the Born Risky campaign that Channel 4 ran last year. You may have seen this on television. It manifested itself in various forms. This was to celebrate their 30th anniversary. So we took the visual identity of that campaign that they were running. We built it into the title of the course, Learning to Take Risks, and we carried it through in various ways throughout all the materials that were created, so that all the materials felt like they were connecting this learning back to that key aspiration of wanting to take risks and push boundaries. So that's key, linking the learning to an individual aspiration, an individual motivator. The second key strand we wanted to pick out was to focus on what we actually want people to do. So this is the difference between competence and compliance. So compliance is fine, and maybe that's your box, the box is checked and the audit requirements met, but what we actually want is competence. We want people doing things differently or doing things in the right way. And one of the challenges, I think, with lots and lots of compliance training is often, there are hundreds of actions that people need to follow or things they should be doing. How on earth do you encapsulate that in a learning program? And even if you could encapsulate all of that in a learning program, who would remember it when they're finished? So we took a rather different approach for this program. We tried to boil that down, all those hundreds of different things that people are expected to do, down to one action, one behaviour that this course tried to build. And that was the behaviour of checking your conduct and asking, is this okay? So if you're about to just send that email slagging off the BBC, stop for a second. Is this okay? Does it feel right? What would my colleagues think about this if I had to explain it to them? What would viewers think? And does it comply with the code of conduct? So that was the behaviour that we were trying to bed, that one behaviour. Whenever you're faced with a conduct choice, if it seems a bit risky, if you're not sure what to do, ask, is it okay? Use these questions to help you check that. And then if you don't know the answer, where do you go to find it? Which policy, which procedure, which colleague can help you with that? So that was a key theme throughout, was this idea of, is this okay? And fortunately, it tied in with a very popular Channel 4 program, The Last Leg, many of you may be familiar with. And in that program, they have a feature called Is It Okay? Where they ask a kind of edgy question, and then people have to decide, is that okay? I'm not going to give any examples of the questions they ask, because it's on quite late at night, that program, and I'm not sure how appropriate that would be at Learning Technologies. But you get the idea, and linking it to that program throughout the program, again, helped build that identity at Channel 4. So that was the second key strand, focusing on competence, not just compliance. Third key strand, relevant to any learning intervention, you need to find an authentic voice to make people trust these materials and believe they have something to do with them. And there are a number of ways that we seek to do that, and what that meant in practice at Channel 4 was, for example, in the written style. So every part of this material, the words themselves were in a Channel 4 style. And with an organisation like Channel 4, that's quite fun, because there's quite a lot of words you can use in their e-learning that we haven't used before with many or any clients. And that's all about finding the right voice. Using their imagery throughout, again, familiar and well-recognised imagery from their broadcast output throughout the materials. Literally finding an authentic voice. So you won't probably recognise this lady, but if you watch Channel 4 routinely, you'll certainly be familiar with her voice. This is Corrie Brown, she's one of their continuity announcers, and so she voices all of the learning materials in the programme. And then the fourth strand here about building authenticity is using peer-contributed content. So throughout the learning materials, we have anecdotes, reflections, examples contributed by colleagues. And that's colleagues throughout the organisation. So we have contributions from the chief exec, and we have contributions from interns in their first few months with the organisation. So in the written style, in the imagery, in the voice, and in peer-contributed content, all ways that we're trying to build authenticity and build trust in learners. So that was strand number 3. And then strand number 4 really extends that, which is to place the learning in a real work context. So here we're talking about case studies and scenarios, but they need to be authentic and they need to be relevant. And what that amounted to in Learning to Take Risks was a whole range of scenarios where all sorts of different conduct areas and from different parts of Channel 4, which boiled down to conduct decisions, and the question was, is this okay? So this was a recurrent theme throughout the module, again, to reinforce that key behaviour that we wanted to build in people. And as I said, those scenarios were presented in a variety of different formats. So we had video-based scenarios, we had audio scenarios, we had scroller scenarios, a specific format that we came up with for them. But they all came down to this key question: is this conduct okay? So those were the 4 strands that we used to build learner engagement. Link the learning to individual aspiration, focus on competence and not compliance, make it authentic, find an authentic voice, and place the learning in context. I'm just a quick examples. I'm not going to try and do a content demo. There's no time for that. If you come to stand 96, we can show you some working content, as it were. But this is kind of what the content looked like. So again, trying to make it very Channel 4. Not much text on screen, highly visual, lots of program imagery, striking, colourful, so it feels like the Channel 4 brand. The content is all responsive, so it'll work off your mobile, your smartphone, or your iPad, or your laptop. Lots of video content, obviously, that went down well at Channel 4, peer contributions. And then there were a couple of more specific formats that we used that proved very, very effective. Again, and this was all around scenarios and finding authentic scenarios. So we created mini documentaries around particular issues, which featured Channel 4 colleagues as well, telling stories, putting the learning messages into context. And then the other example over there is of what we call a scroller scenario. So this is a story, essentially, that you scroll through on your device or with your trackpad if it's on your computer, and the story just flows as you scroll through. And in this case, what you're taken through a series of conduct decisions. So you might follow a few days in the life of a colleague. Maybe they're involved in a particular project or a process, and it throws up conduct choices. Is it okay to put in this expenses claim? Is it okay to invite that supplier to pitch for this work, even though my brother works for that company? Those sort of things. So these are various different ways in which we're presenting those authentic scenarios and asking the "is it okay" questions. So that was really, I hope that illustrated some of the ways in which we were seeking to build learner engagement. Another critical element in both engagement and behaviour change is something we're very keen on at Acteon, and we encourage our clients to think about, and that's what we call campaigning for change. So seeing your learning intervention as a campaign and getting away from the idea of a one hit. And really this is the only way that you're going to change behaviour, is with multiple hits in a directed campaign. So what did that mean in practice with learning to take risks? What it meant was the conduct learning was divided into kind of 6 chunks. Each of those chunks had an e-learning module, which you've seen some examples of that with the scenarios in and all the rest of it. And those modules were released at weekly intervals. And around them, we used a whole variety of internal comms channels to support them. So we were using the intranet, email, we had video teasers, we used posters, all sorts of things. And so what the effect was to create a 6-week focus on the code of conduct and on professional conduct. And it's important to say that, so you can imagine that, so for each chunk, you had your e-learning module, you might have accompanying posters, you had maybe a video teaser, we had some is it okay questions out there. And the important thing about the campaign is the communications are not just saying, oh, there's some new e-learning and you need to go there and you need to work through it. The communications are part of the learning design, and they're targeted at changing behaviour. So they throw up questions, they present scenarios, and they guide you into that e-learning module. So I've got one example here that I hope will work. And this is just one little teaser video that we made. So this one was used in the build-up to the expenses, what we call the expenses week. Let's just see if it works. Does the sound work? There we go. Okay, so you get the idea. So we were using things like this. They were just pushed out, maybe with no explanation, nothing surrounding them, just to be a little teaser to get people thinking, as part of a campaign that was reaching people through various different channels in various different ways. So that campaigning for change, vital for really driving behaviour change. A final point to mention really, in terms of engagement, in terms of the effectiveness of the programme, is just the delivery. So the e-learning materials were delivered from our Knowledge Centre learning platform, and that was integrated with Channel 4's intranet. That was critical because an awful lot of the communication channels that we were using were also focused through the intranet. The Knowledge Centre itself is responsive as well, so it's working from smartphone or tablet or whichever device you want to use to access it. And really the importance of the learning management here as well is not simply the audit perspective, saying, okay, has everybody completed it yet? Great, yeah, have we hit our target? The learning management information was a crucial part of the campaign. So Channel 4 managers were able to say, okay, where are we getting good uptake? Where are we not getting so good uptake? Where do we need to focus a bit more communication? Where do we maybe need a specific targeted email? Where do we need a specific message from the chief exec? And so they were actually using the learning management information to guide the campaign to make it most effective. Okay, so I hope that's given you a flavour of the programme, of the content, of the campaign for change, of the things that we were doing to build learner engagement and to drive behaviour change. As I said, it was very successful in terms of uptake. So we launched this in April, and 11 weeks later, Channel 4 hit its target for uptake. So 90% of staff, which was the key target, had completed the course. And I think this is an interesting graph. It shows the proportion of uptake throughout the campaign. So you've got the weeks of the campaign on the bottom axis, and you can see the take-up of e-learning. And what's interesting is that even with that campaign approach, even with the weekly focused campaigns, that push campaign only got us to about 50% uptake. And then the campaign switched to a much more targeted campaign using the information from the learning management system to identify where specific messages needed to be delivered, local managers following up, and that was what drove through to the full target of completion. So remember at the outset we talked, often the perception of compliance training is of that bad medicine you just have to take. Well, from our evaluation survey, Channel 4 colleagues didn't mind taking this medicine. We got great feedback in terms of user satisfaction and user experience. And we also did a sort of pre and post self-evaluation of awareness of the code of conduct and saw a very pleasing shift towards higher awareness. And obviously this is self-reporting, and you wouldn't be surprised that after you've done a major campaign and learning intervention, you would hope that you would see higher awareness, but we were able to demonstrate that. Crucially, in terms of behavioural change, from our user evaluation survey, colleagues report themselves that they understand better about key actions, key behaviours to do with conduct, and report that they will do that. And the really key KPI in this case is that in the indexes that Channel 4 use to measure these things, whether they're actually happening, they've seen a significant increase since the training was launched, which is exactly the behavioural change that they were looking to influence and looking to achieve. So that was kind of the story of learning to take risks at Channel 4. I hope it demonstrated how taking a quite different approach to compliance learning was very powerful for building learner engagement. It was powerfully effective for driving behaviour change. And I hope it was able to highlight some of the strands that we use to try and achieve that. So if there are things in there that are of particular interest for you, I'm very happy to answer questions now or afterwards, or as I say, please do come and talk to us on stand 96. Thank you very much.